Hi everyone, I'm Kyonta Smith. I'm an architect in the Birmingham office, and I'm here with Jane Reed Ross, an awesome landscape architect, also here in our Birmingham office. And we're here because of National Women's Equality Day in August on the 26th. And we just wanted to give you a introduction to Jane and let her talk about her experiences and our experiences as women in the construction industry. So Jane, can you talk a little bit about yourself and introduce who you are to people who may not know you?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Thank you, Kyonta. I'm Jane Reed Ross. I'm a landscape architect, and it's hard to believe, but I've been working as a landscape architect for about 40 years now. I went to school at Auburn University, and I worked as an intern in Washington, D.C. while I was in school, and then moved and worked in D.C. for a number of firms for several years, and then moved south and worked for a series of firms here in Birmingham, Alabama. Then had my own business for about 15 years, and then landed with GMC, and I've been with them for about 12 years. And our main focus is public spaces, parks, trails, campuses, streetscapes, all the work in the public space that brings people together and builds community.
So over 40 years in the industry, so that's plenty of time to have amassed some stories. You've heard things, seen things throughout that amount of time, so especially related to women's equality. So can you speak to some of your experiences related to that?
Sure, I'd be glad to. It's interesting that we're talking about this because for so long it was taboo. You really could not talk about it. And that's probably one of the biggest things is that now we're able to have a conversation about it. But 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, we didn't talk about it. You know, it was just, you ignored it. But probably one of the most memorable experiences for me as far as discrimination was my first job experience as a student at Auburn. I was working in Washington, D.C., and it was 1980, and I landed an interview and then an eventual job with the site planning department in the Veterans Administration. And so, I was so excited. It was really great to have a job, period, in a recession at that time. And we've been through several recessions since then, but that job was so important to me. It really jump-started my career, and it meant a great deal to me. And I was so excited to be working in the nation's capital, and just a couple of blocks from the White House. But I found out several weeks after I started that job that the 12 male landscape architects that I worked with had protested my hire and had marched to the department head to try to have that job taken away. They said that I would destroy their studio dynamic, and productivity, and it's going to be horrible. And that department had pretty much told them that times were changing and they needed to adapt to the situation. So I kept my job, and that was before they even ever met me. They hadn't even seen me at that point. I came on board very enthusiastic, willing to learn and learn how to be a landscape architect. And I worked there 2 summers, and by the end of the second summer, those very same men that had protested my hire gave me a going away party. We had bonded, we made friends, we kept in touch for many years, and it was a huge learning experience for all of us, really, on different levels. But that was the beginning of change for that entity as well as for me professionally.
So just to pinpoint maybe 1 or 2 things over your very illustrious career, what do you think would be something that is identified as maybe the toughest thing you've had to go through so far?
Interesting. What would I choose as this toughest? We often talk about things that are said that are unfair in the workplace, comments people make, and that sort of thing. But I think some of the toughest things in the past have been the things that were not said, the things that were implied. And one of those things, for many years, I realized that I was not being advanced professionally, even though I was working really hard and focusing on the work and trying to enjoy the job. And I came to the realization there was this assumption that when I started having children, that I would retire and go home to raise the children. And I never intended to do that. Neil and I planned to have children, and then I would work just like my mother did. She worked her entire life. And so that was the plan. So that was an unspoken, implied thing, and I just sort of had to deal with it. When Neil and I had our first son, I went back to work and realized that there was no flexibility in the environment. There was no allowing for flexible time to deal with children. And so I thought, well, the best thing I can do right now is probably start my own business. I did. That's when I started Ross Land Design and created my own flexibility. That business grew and lasted for 15 years until I sold it. We had 10 employees, and we did a lot of public work projects, some of them that you might be familiar with like Railroad Park, Homewood Central Park, Shades Creek Greenway. All of those are projects that the previous firm could have enjoyed working with if they had had more flexibility and helped me navigate through the challenges of family and workplace.
So given what you just talked about and those particular obstacles that you had to go through, are you seeing now that things are changing? And if so, how so, and for the good or indifferent?
There have been a lot of changes since I started working. One of them is, business clubs like Rotary or Kiwanis. Women were not allowed into 1987. That's pretty amazing because a lot of business networking occurred in those clubs, and women didn't have access to it. So, how could you advance with your network? Women are allowed now, and I'm a Rotarian, and one of our projects, the Rotary Trail in the Magic City, is one of our biggest projects, most visible projects, and that project was born out of those relationships. So that really speaks to the importance of women being included in the workplace as well as in the social networks that are involved. Yeah.
And that's a phenomenal job that you guys did, and a new Birmingham landmark, so you should be very proud.
We are. We love that project. Also, there are other things to think about too. Women were not allowed to participate on juries until 1976. And it takes a while for a law to become mainstream. I wasn't asked to be on a jury until the late 90s. So it's pretty amazing that women were not included in that civic duty. But because we were not deemed credible. So another thing to consider. I bought a car in 1986, and I thought it would be an easy task because I just paid off my student loan and I had credit, and the bank required that my husband sign the papers, and he was not even a U.S. citizen. So
Yes, we know, yes. Things are definitely in the right trajectory today.
That's right, yeah,
Yes.
we don't have to,
For sure.
I can buy a car now and sign for it, that's fine.
Good job, me
No
too.
problem.
Me too.
Yay. There's a famous ad in the 70s, you've come a long way, baby. And we have come a long way. It's no longer novel to see women in the workplace. Everybody is accepting of this, yeah. And it's great. It's just huge to come from a place where it was unusual and people were awkward. We've left those days. So, there's always room for improvement, and we can always strive to do better. But it's tremendous how much change we have had. No one ever it's been decades since someone has said something like, do you feel bad because you're taking a job away from a family man? Or, where's your boss? Are you the one that I have to deal with?
Can you go grab some coffee?
Yeah, could go grab some coffee.
Right.
We can rattle off a long
Yes,
list
a
of
whole
things.
Right.
But, now we enjoy really strong camaraderie in the workplace and enjoy all the members of our company. And it's fun. I love coming to work. I love all the relationships we have and the projects we work on, and I love that we focus on building community, and that's what it's really all about. and diversity, because the more you understand about our community and include more people, the stronger we are and the better we are at getting things built and implemented.
I totally agree. And then last thing, Jane, there may be some people who are listening who aren't familiar with you being our latest George Goodwin Building Communities Award winner. And I wanted you to talk about that award and maybe what it means to you and your relationship with GMC.
Well, that award means so much to me. I can't tell you. You know, I've given you a few comments about how far we've come along in the past 40 years, and so at this time to receive that award means so much to me. And I think it's important for everybody in our company to see women honored and promoted, and that award certainly goes towards that. And it's tremendous, and it means a lot. As a landscape architect and planner, our motto is all about building communities, and to see our whole firm and all the different departments take on that motto and really look at how we do build communities and bring everybody together, include all people, and create spaces that are engaging and improve quality of life. I love that. That just means the world to me. And to be in this company at this time is huge. I love it, and hope everybody around us feel that and are happy with that.
Well, thank you, Jane. Anyone who's ever worked with you, I know we're proud. I'm very proud of being able to speak with you and work with you. So it's really a treat having you at the Birmingham office. And again, everybody, please don't forget Women's Equality Day is August 26th. So see your coworkers, see your neighbors, give them a hi, and help celebrate with the D&I committee. Thank you so much.